And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the World Center of Racing as it plays host to the 10th race of the season, the Dark Horse Racing Series F.A.R.T NDCar Series. This is Daytona. You heard right. Open wheel race cars at Daytona International Speedway. Seth Cole joined up in the booth here tonight by Tom Bourne. And Tom, when we saw this racetrack on the schedule, initially first thought is, oh, must be the Daytona road course. But we saw these drivers out there in practice over 240 miles per hour. Even with what we saw out there during practice, do we have any idea of how these open wheel cars are going to handle here tonight for 100 laps?
No. I was talking to a few guys before the race, and they were saying one little slip up and it could just end the race with how fast these cars are going.
Daytona, no matter whether it's open wheel, stock car, doesn't matter. It's always a wild card race and a close points battle. Coming into tonight, Eric Schaus only 2 points up on Taylor Jordan. How do those two have to kind of be approaching this race here tonight? A track that not necessarily are you able to control your own destiny.
Honestly, it's just stay out of trouble. If they don't want to bring anybody else into it, then they're going to just have to race themselves. And the green's out, and we're underway.
Craig Forsyth gets the pole position. Last week's winner from Twin Ring Motegi, looking for back-to-back wins on the season. And he's one of a trio of drivers that really need something good to happen here tonight if they're going to have a shot by the time we get to Indianapolis to battle for the championship. Himself along with Charles Teed and Will Roberts. As topside is Roberts in the 31. Both these drivers trying to lead the first lap of the evening. Now, they do have the faster pair available to them, but I think it's safe to say even the minutest contact that you make here at Daytona may end up drawing you to have to use that mulligan.
Yeah, especially with, like you said earlier, with the insane speeds. Right now, we're going 240 plus going into turns 1 and 3. And like I said, one small slip up and it could mean disaster for the end of your race. And, especially if that happens in the first 10 laps, you're going to have to be riding around using that faster pair and just for the last 90.
Saw the bright yellow 36 of Eric Peterson down below the double yellow line, kind of bailing out, dropping back, preserving that car for the long run. Now, obviously, these cars very aerodynamically dependent, and I saw a couple of drivers in practice. They tested the waters of bump drafting, even though there's really no bumper for them to be able to push. You got that gearbox back there, and of course as well with that front wing, I don't think you necessarily want to crumple up either one of those wings, because that, I would assume, would hurt your straightaway speed.
Yeah, if I was them, I wouldn't want to try bump drafting. I don't like bump drafting in the stock cars here, let alone open wheel. So I feel like if you do try and bump draft, it's got to be very, very light, and you can't slam into the back of somebody like you can in the C-class trucks or anything along those lines. You got to be very gentle with it.
Riding on board with Taylor Jordan, only 2 points out of the points lead. Looking ahead at Craig Forsyth, and you see the movement there, the back and forth of the 27 with the wheel motion here, the control panel in 7th gear for Taylor Jordan. Looked pretty steady there through 3 and 4, but we were watching these guys in practice, and you make just the slightest little turn of the wheel, you can find yourself in a lot of trouble. We saw a couple of saves, but more often than not enough space to be able to gather it up. Daytona, as opposed to the other superspeedway, Talladega, a lot narrower, especially in the corners and over there in the tri-oval.
Yeah, one other thing you got to worry about is hitting that apron. I saw a lot of guys in practice barely scraping that apron, and they would just spin it off the corner. As you saw, the second place driver, I believe that was Will Roberts, just nicking the apron and just sliding straight up the track.
Of course, maybe a little too early to speculate it, but there's another kind of elephant in the room pit road. How difficult is it going to be trying to get onto pit road with these open wheel race cars? I mean, with a stock car, you guys are coming off of turn 4, probably about what, 180, maybe 190 miles per hour to head for pit road. These drivers are nearing almost 250 miles per hour in the draft.
I will say the difference between the stock car, like, yeah, it's a lower speed in the stock cars, but we have a lot worse braking in the stock cars than the open wheel cars. So they can kind of stop on a dime if they wanted to. Another thing I saw in practice, lots of practice of pit stops, just trying to get down to that pit road speed, making sure they're ready for when they need to pit.
So how about what we just observed there out of turn 4? The top line actually worked. The duo of Will Roberts and Sheridan Wade were able to swing around the outside of Craig Forsyth. They brought Matthew Rodriguez along with them. So there is 2 viable lanes here at Daytona, and at least here in the early going, it looks like that outside line might be just a little bit faster.
Yeah, something I've noticed ever since iRacing really updated their stuff with the setups and everything and the tracks. The outside lane at super speedways is just the way to go, at least in the stock cars. Open wheel, I definitely see it working, as you see Matthew Rodriguez just getting a huge run as we're 3 wide for the race lead.
Oh,
I don't know about that one so far.
Oh, no,
contact! Oh, big wreck!
That was Sheridan Wade, and he has collected up a ton of others.
Eric Schaus is involved.
Forsyth, Jim Herrick looked like the 4 in that one.
Oh, boy.
And Schaus, the points leader, coming into tonight, a minuscule 2 points over Taylor Jordan. And he's going to have to use a faster pair. We're not even 10 laps in.
That's what I was talking. Once I saw that 3 wide move, it just didn't. Oh, Forsyth is looks like he has retired from the race.
So Craig Forsyth's chances of back-to-back victories will not come to fruition. Let's go back and take a look at this again. Off of turn 2 and down the back straightaway. You mentioned it, 3 wide. Not a whole lot of space to be able to do that, especially with how on edge these cars are. And I think Sheridan Wade, he turns down a little too much. Oh no, well, a little combination of both. He turns down, but at the same time, Will Roberts got the apron and he started drifting up. And unfortunately, I believe the first car that got caught up in that was Eric Schaus in the 72. Just nowhere to be able to go. Going so fast, there's no reaction time.
Yeah, and that, that was one thing that I was worried about is, look, if it's Talladega, 3 wide, no problem. Daytona, I never feel comfortable going 3 wide here. Unless it's, last lap, got to go for it. You're on lap 8. Do you really need to push it 3 wide right now? No. Do I think it could have been avoided? Absolutely.
Well, that wreck was over in the middle of 3 and 4, so it won't be as long of a tow for the drivers that were not able to make it back to pit road as it would have been if they had been past the start-finish line or past pit road exit. But I think at least a couple of them are going to fall off of the lead lap. As a matter of fact, right now, Schaus, Sheridan Wade, and Jim Herrick are all showing 2 laps down. And oh wow, I think Eric Schaus might have actually just retired out of the race.
I'm not too sure. I still see him sitting on pit road.
Okay.
But then again, I mean, Will Roberts is still sitting on pit road, so I don't know if they're just trying to get damage repaired. I mean, Schaus is probably towing.
I think Roberts was the only one that was able to drive back to pit road of all the drivers involved.
I believe so. I mean, Jim Herrick's car is destroyed on pit road, and Sheridan Wade, both rear tires are missing, so I don't think that car is going anywhere anytime soon.
Work continuing on the 31 of Will Roberts as D.L. Lemon inherits the race lead. Everybody came to pit road with the exception of the 08, so it looks like he'll be the one to lead us back to green. Taylor Jordan won the battle off pit lane, so he would restart second. Matthew Rodriguez third, then Christopher and Najee Camargo the top 5. At the bigger racetracks we've been to this season, Michigan, Auto Club, a lot of talk about when the fuel starts to burn off, the back end gets lighter and lighter off the corner. We're already seeing these cars on edge. I have to wonder when we get towards the end of a fuel run. It looks like Lemon's coming to pit road here, but I have to wonder near the end of a fuel run just how much more these drivers are on edge because of the fact they don't have that downforce in the back, that weight in the back.
Yeah, it's definitely going to cause problems, especially at this type of speed. I mean, I've never seen cars go this fast at Daytona, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see cars just stepping out of line off the corners. I know in the stock cars that happens, so I wouldn't be surprised these open wheel cars going 50, 60 miles an hour faster doing that as well.
So we saw some drivers dive onto pit road behind DL Lemon, I would assume to possibly top off, be a little bit better on fuel. Taylor Jordan will inherit the race lead, then Stouffer Camargo will be the top three. It looks like the drivers that had to call the tow, they've all returned, including Craig Forsyth. So Forsyth, Herrick, Schaus, and Sheridan Wade, who were all 2 laps down, looks like they got one of those laps added back. So all 4 of those drivers will be -1 from 11th through 14th. When we go back green, it'll be a 4-way battle for potentially the lucky dog. All 14 cars still running, but the most important thing is who had to use the faster pair. Well, no surprise, it was the 4 drivers that had to call the tow. Forsyth, Herrick, Schaus, and Sheridan Wade will have to run the remaining 90% of this race without that mulligan available. I almost wonder if maybe they're just going to kind of ride at the back of the pack because, what else can you do? One more wreck you're involved in, more than likely that's your day done.
Well, here's the problem with this, Seth. You have 4 cars right now, 1 lap down. With such a small field, you might not get that second caution. You might not get, 1 to 2, maybe 3 more cautions. So they gotta be planning on just 1 more. And you got four fast guys that are all battling for that lucky dog. So it's kind of a fine line to, well, I want to save my car to make sure I don't get involved in a wreck, but I also need this lucky dog.
Taylor Jordan looking to leave Daytona as the points leader, also looking to be a league-leading 4-time winner on the season as he gets us back under the green. Normally at a speedway, you want to get a jump like that, but I'm not necessarily certain if getting that far out in front at a track like Daytona is such a good thing, unless maybe he can hook up with Chris Stouffer here and those two could tandem away. Nope, Stouffer is going to try and go to the lead himself.
See, I feel like that's going to work well for the first and second cars. I feel like the 59 of Camargo, I don't think he's going to be able to get to him unless Matt Rodriguez latches on his back bumper and starts trying to push him up. I feel like there's just too big of a lead as Matthew Rodriguez just takes it to the outside.
Yep, jumps to the outside of Camargo. We'll swing around for the 3rd position. Got the lap car of Craig Forsyth right there. He's in the lucky dog position should we get a yellow. They get a pretty nice tow, I think, right there off of turn number 2 as he ran the outside line all the way through 1 and 2. And it's looking like, at least telemetry-wise, it's looking like even though these guys are battling side by side, they're making up a little bit of ground on the top 2.
So what I noticed is they're leapfrogging one another. Considering you really can't bump draft in these cars, I feel like that's the best bet to actually gain ground. As you can see, they gained over a second, going 255 into turn 1, and they are there. I feel like that was a very smart move by 3rd and 4th place to actually try and get up to the top 2.
To your point, we've seen with stock cars, you can lock the bumpers and have one tight draft, but not available, not an option really for these open wheel race cars. And we've seen that slingshot before at some of the other big tracks and seen it work to perfection. Obviously, it has worked here for 3rd and 4th place. We've now got a pack of 5 up here. There you see the second pack further back. That's where Eric Peterson is in the 6th position with Joseph Morales in 5th. They got a couple of lap cars intermingled in front of them. That is Eric Schaus and Jim Herrick. So a battle within the battle here, just inside the final spot of the top 5, back through the top 10.
Yeah, and these guys, I feel like these guys really need to sort it out if they want any shot of gaining that getting to that top 4. I mean, they're sitting 3 seconds back right now as we cross the line. We'll get upgraded telemetry. Oh, caution's out.
Nate Fields potentially in the 0-5 might have been the reason for this yellow. He was the only one I saw slowing. I believe he just actually got on track. 15 laps down, might have missed the start.
He's been having connection issues since the drop of the green flag. Looks like he just stopped.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Came off pit road and comes to a stop right at the exit.
Well, that helps Craig Forsyth out a lot.
It does, you're right. We'll get the free pass and get back on the lead lap. We'll have 11 drivers on the lead lap when we go back green. Another opportunity for drivers to be able to come down pit road, make a pit stop under caution. See if anybody elects to make the dive, or having only run about 3, 4, 5 laps under green flag conditions, maybe some of them will feel the track position is more important. Taylor Jordan showing the way as we're nearing a quarter of the way through tonight's event here at Daytona. Got 2 more races coming up after this one, with the championship hanging in the balance. Next week, these drivers will be at the final mile-and-a-half racetrack, Kentucky, and then it's double points in the season finale, as we'll be at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Somebody looking to kiss the yard of bricks, somebody looking to hoist the championship trophy, maybe the same person.
Maybe. It's definitely going to be rough with a field of these talented drivers. It looks like I believe top 3, 4, 5 are coming down. Looks like everybody, actually.
Everyone's going to make the dive onto pit road. Taylor Jordan, we'll see if he's going to be able to win the battle off of pit lane. Looks like he's got the 3rd stall. And yeah, very quick pit stop for him, and he will leave pit road. Well, he's going to cycle into 2nd. DL Lemon stays out yet again, but he might be diving to pit road in just the next lap or 2, as Taylor Jordan will more than likely be the one to lead us back to green. So as we're currently under our 2nd caution of the evening here at Daytona, we're going to step aside for a quick commercial break. You're not going to miss anything. We're going to go out for side by side and then bring you back for the restart here at Daytona. The following presentation of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series on the Flatout Racing Network is brought to you by Ultimate Garage Floors. Ultimate Garage Floors is very active in the garage remodeling community, staying current with the latest technologies and custom configurations so that we can bring you the highest quality installations. As a Northern Virginia Exposy flooring installer, we focus on garages and commercial flooring to perfect our craft and bring you high results. In a space that gets as much wear and tear as your garage, you want to be able to trust that the cabinets and flooring we install are ready to withstand against high traffic and regular use. That is why we include a lifetime warranty with our services, so that you know we stand behind the quality of our work. To get started with a free consultation, call us at 540-931-9006 or visit us on the web at ultimategaragefloorsva.net. That's ultimategaragefloorsva.net. Lights on top of the iRacing pace car. We're getting ready to go back green at the completion of lap 19 on to 20 here tonight at the World Center of Racing. Race number 10 of the F.A.R.T NDCar series under the Dark Horse Racing Series banner. Taylor Jordan back out in front yet again for this restart with Joseph Morales, Najee Camargo, Christopher, and Eric Peterson, the top 5. Tom, before we went to that commercial break, you mentioned about that caution being a big break for Craig Forsyth getting the lucky dog, but everybody that's running is back on the lead lap because all the rest took the wave around.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. Like we were talking during the break, as the green flag's back out, those guys that took the wave around, they're going to have about, I want to say, 10 laps less on fuel, so they're going to have to end up pitting together if they want a chance at staying with the pack.
Morales got a nice jump there on Taylor Jordan. He'll go to the point. Najee Camargo looked for second, but the door was shut. You know, when we talk about Daytona and Talladega, a lot of times we talk about the opportunity for a bit of a Cinderella story, an underdog story. There's a bunch of drivers in the field that have yet to go to victory lane this season, even though they've been consistent. They just haven't been able to close out the deal for a checkered flag. And you know, look at some of these drivers up here, like a Morales, Camargo, Christopher in the 15. I mean, probably, you know, there's the terror of what is this particular kind of car going to be like at a super speedway, but at the same time, I'm sure they've turned laps in a stock car or in a truck here at Daytona. Got to be feeling pretty confident that maybe today is the day that they're going to be able to get that first checkered flag of the season.
Yeah, and that's one thing I thoroughly enjoy about going to a super speedway. Just any of them, you know, Atlanta, well, now that it's a super speedway, Daytona, Talladega, it's really anybody's ball game. You kind of just got to be at the right place at the right time. Tracks like this, yeah, you could be a good super speedway racer, but you know, you got to have the luck to make it through the race to get to the shot at winning. You know, constant problems for these races. It's just gigantic pileups, as we saw on lap 3. You saw, lap 8. You saw just 4 cars just ultimately having used their fast repair, and now they're just kind of, you know, running back there trying to save their stuff.
It's like for the most part, a lot of these drivers running in single file. One driver going against the grain. That's Sheridan Wade. High, wide, and handsome. Passing drivers on the top side there. Now going to pull alongside of Joseph Morales for the second position. Craig Forsyth going to jump up there to the top now. That's a battle for 5th between himself and Najee Camargo. You brought up a great point, too. We've been kind of talking about handling, and we've been talking about fuel, but you were discussing about the tires, especially the longer we get into a run being a factor of these race cars, especially in regards to holding the inside line.
Yeah, something I've been noticing, you know, like, we haven't gotten past the 10-lap run yet. Something I've been noticing is, especially off the corners, if they're too wide, even single file, if they're running that middle to high line, there's a lot of drift off the corner, especially with these speeds in these cars. I wouldn't be surprised, as the tires wear, you end up getting somebody scraping the wall coming off turns 2 or 4, or even just sliding up into another car.
What a move we saw right there, courtesy of the onboard cameras of Joseph Morales. That was Taylor Jordan, slingshot to the top on Craig Forsyth, and then to the bottom on Morales. He went from 5th to 3rd in the span of about half a straightaway. 8:02 back on the move after he lost the lead on that restart.
Yeah, I feel like him and Will Roberts, I think, have the cars to beat today. And I know it's hard to say who has the car to beat at a super speedway, but they've been up front all race long. I feel like they have the best shot at getting the lead and staying there. The guy that I'm a little nervous for right now is that 27 of Craig Forsyth. He did use that fast repair, but he's up front. You know, I think he's just trying to get up front, stay there, and stay out of all the messes that's going on.
Something that you were saying to me during that break as well was those drivers that took the wave around, they kind of have to work together in terms of communicating when are we going to potentially make that green flag pit stop since they are at a deficit on fuel to the rest of the field. The three drivers that took the wave around are nowhere in each other's neighborhoods. Sheridan Wade's out in front, Jim Herrick's back in 7th, and Eric Schaus is all the way back in the 12th position, so they're not necessarily working together right now.
Yeah, but I feel like I said, with these cars, the draft is so strong with them. Once you get to one another, I feel like it'll work out for them. Yeah, they're spread out, but this field is so small. Like, it's not a 30, 40 car field. So if you have a guy that's leading and then running in 7th position and 12th position like they are right now, it's not really the end of the world. And like I said, especially with the suck up of these cars, say you're a second back, well, you'll be to that back bumper in 2 turns.
Now, is this good strategy by Sheridan Wade? Because with being one of the wave around cars, being the lead car here, he'd be consuming a lot more fuel, providing the slipstream or the draft to the drivers behind him. If this continues on, it's possible he would be even a lap shorter on fuel than those other drivers that took the wave around with him. Do you like this call of getting out in front here and maybe trying to just stay out of trouble, but at the same time, maybe taking a little bit of a minus in the fuel category?
So I feel like it's a good move because, look, I don't know much about these cars, but something I have picked up on in the first 29 laps of this race, there's no lifting. So whether you're out front or behind, I feel like you're just going to burn the same amount of gas. Yeah, if you're tucked up right behind somebody, like you see Will Roberts tucked up behind Sheridan Wade right now, I feel like it might save you like half a lap, maybe. But, it all matters on, Sheridan Wade might be leading right now, but he could have been saving under that caution. That'll give you extra fuel. It all really matters on, how hard you're really pushing the car. Obviously, if you're in first, you can't lift. And that's what I like about these cars, because in the stock car, you're gonna have to lift. There's gonna be checkups and everything, but you see the way these guys are racing. They're just going for it, left, right, and center.
Definitely going for it as the top 3, now maybe top 4, are going to be all, I won't say nose to tail, wing to wing, I guess is what you'd call it here with these cars at Daytona. Eric Peterson in the 5th position, and right behind him, Jim Herrick in the 40. A good comeback run for a few of these drivers that had issues in the early going, had to take on the faster pair. We've had 2 cautions, but only the 4 aforementioned drivers have had to use that mulligan. The second caution was for Nate Fields, who is back on the racetrack. Hopefully he's gotten his connection problems figured out, albeit 19 laps down, and he is just now entering into, I believe that is turn number 1. The field was exiting out of turn number 4, so with the speeds that they're turning, they're probably going to encounter him within the next 5 laps, if not sooner.
So something I'm noticing, I'm watching Nate Fields right now as he goes into turn 3. He's going about 243 going down to turn 3. The leader is going about 244 going into turn 3. So I don't know if he's going to be caught as quick as we think.
So maybe even with that thought process, like I'm looking right now, to your point, the fastest car in the draft going through the trial was DL Lemon, and he was hitting 248. So that's about maybe 4 or 5 miles per hour faster than the single car speed that Nate Fields was carrying through there. This may be one of the few super speedway races that we see, if we get into green flag pit stops and the field gets spread out, where it's not necessarily a bad thing to be all by yourself.
No, I definitely don't think it would be. I mean, you're, like I said, earlier, I think the way you're going to have to make up ground is to slingshot around people. And I just feel like staying in a line isn't going to do much. I mean, we look at Sheridan Wade. He ran a 37.1 that last lap. And Nate Fields, who's running all alone, ran a 37.3.
Battle for the lead, that is DL Lemon on the outside of Sheridan Wade. These two have been in the conversation last couple of weeks. for a victory. Sheridan Wade was a key player back at Texas Motor Speedway, and D.L. Enman kind of feels like he's owed one from the hardship late in the Homestead Miami race, as he'll cross over Sheridan Wade and he will go to the point. I believe that is the first lap under green flag conditions that D.L. Lemon has led. He led a couple of laps under the 2 previous cautions. Will Roberts going to remain in the 3rd position with Forsyth and Taylor Jordan there in 4th and 5th. We're not seeing nearly as much side-by-side racing since we went back green. A couple of battles here and there, which says to me these drivers, maybe a couple of things. First thing could be just, there's a long ways to go. Let's not tear up any more equipment until near the end of this race when that checkered flag's on the line. But then also, maybe let's settle in and get ourselves to that round of green flag pit stops.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even halfway yet. I don't think you really need to be pushing the car or anything like that. As you see Matt Rodriguez just flying on the outside up to 3rd, past Will Roberts. I'm never one to end up getting super crazy at super speedways at the beginning of races, especially with a fast repair. I definitely think, I'm definitely the type of person that is going to be like, all right, I know there's going to be a wreck at the end. Let me go for it in the last 15 laps and save that fast repair. And then if I get involved in it, well, guess what? I'm back out there with a fresh car.
At the same time, a racer always wants to be, up at the front. If you're running 3rd, you want to be 2nd. If you're running 2nd, you want to be 1st. And in this kind of a lull, if you will, how difficult is it mentally as a driver to not get over anxious and think, maybe I'll do a little experimentation here for the end of the race, see what my car is able to do? How do you kind of rein yourself in, keep yourself in check?
I'll tell you right now, especially doing a all super speedway league and that F.A.R.T gladly broadcasts whenever we do race it, and just bigger series at super speedways, it is hard to just keep focus of, okay, this is my plan, I'm going to stay in the back, especially when you're with teammates and the teammates are like, hey, let's try and get to the front, see how quick it goes, how fast we can get there and everything from this spot. It's definitely hard to just be consistent with it. Hey, I'm running 25th. Let me stay in 25th until I know I have to go.
Photo finish there at the line. D.L. Lemon by a wing led that lap over Sheridan Wade, who's trying that top side all by himself again. But as we've kind of established in terms of speeds being turned by single cars, you don't necessarily have to have a drafting partner to be able to make these moves. And if you don't see Eric Schaus up at the front, there's not really a surprise. The points leader was caught up in an incident early, had to call a tow, had to take on a fast repair, and he restarted in 12th. He's been riding in that 12th, 13th position the entirety of this run. He is still in the lead pack, still in the draft, but trying to keep that thing preserved as it's kind of been two different battles in the war between himself and Taylor Jordan. For Taylor Jordan, he's gone all out. He's found victory lane 3 times. For Eric Schaus, it's really been about consistent finishes up inside of the top 5. Granted, he does have that one victory earlier on this season at Road America, but it's been really consistency versus checkered flags for those two. Whoa, yeah. Man, a little wiggle there for Will Roberts in the 31. Good save through 3 and 4.
Yeah, and that's, Will just got on the apron again. These cars are so easy to turn and everything, and they are tight for the lead right now. I'd be very... Oh, car on the wall. I believe that is Sheridan Wade. He's coming back to...
Everybody going to make their way by him.
That was close.
8 or 9. Yeah, that was really close, because I would assume as well, these wheels are exposed. You don't have a chassis around them, so you get up into the wall. It's almost like the wall grabs that tire rubber, and so you have to be very careful when you're coming off of the wall that you don't jut back down into traffic as Sheridan Wade's coming down pit lane.
Yeah, I feel like this is a good call by Wade right here. Just get out of the pack, just run your race, and maybe force the hand of people, all right, hey, second place at the time, just pit. Let's come down, figure it out. We're not really too sure on how much fuel you get per tank. I think we were talking like maybe 27 to 30 laps, give or take. So this could be right in the fuel window where if you get over 30 laps, then you're good on one more pit stop.
You have to wonder if any, possible suspension damage there on the right side for Sheridan Wade when he got up into the wall. And that might have also been to the point you made earlier about tires, because he was really doggedly on that second lane trying to get around the outside of DL Lemon and might have overcooked that right front just a little bit there. It didn't have the grip that it had previously going into 3 and just continued to drift up, didn't have that grip.
Yeah, and something I've been noticing with iRacing just recently is if you get in the wall's not going to let you go.
No.
And you saw it firsthand with Sheridan Wade. He got in the wall, and the wall did not let go. You basically have to turn the wheel all the way to the left, and then it just magically pops off, and then all of a sudden you're going down the track.
It looked like it was a regularly scheduled stop for Sheridan Wade. No extra time to repair damage, so he is still on the lead lap, albeit 40 seconds back from the race leader. Be interesting to kind of watch the lap times of him, because we know he's been fast. He's been up there battling for the lead, been out in front here today as well. We'll see if he even starts maybe chipping away at the advantage that the front pack of about 13 drivers has. It's about stationary right now. Most of the drivers in this pack ran in the mid 37s to 37.2s to about maybe a 37.3, and he ran a 37.314 all by himself. So when these drivers come to pit road, more than likely with the pace that he's setting, he'll cycle back into that lead group as Will Roberts having some connection problems there in the second position.
Yeah, unfortunately, what I see happening with where Wade came out, DL Lemon and Will Roberts, they're both going to get his draft eventually. And it might not be the end of the world for Sheridan, as he can fall in line and be in the draft with them. And quite possibly, depending on how long people are going to have to wait for fuel, I could see Sheridan coming back and cycling out to the race lead, as we got the 40 car of Jim Herrick coming on pit road.
Gonna get an experience of green flag pit stops here. Eric Schaus on pit road as well, getting the thing woed down to what appears to be 70 miles per hour here for
60.
these Indy cars. Okay, 60 miles per hour. Not the usual 55 for the stock cars.
I'll tell you right now, it's not fun getting down from 235 miles an hour at the exit of 4 to 60 miles an hour in that little short chute.
Got to make sure that you don't speed, because that's a huge penalty when it comes to super speedway racing. As nobody else coming down this time. So of those cars that have come to pit road, all 3 of them, remember, were the wave around cars. So if you do the math, everybody else should be able to go 8, maybe 10 laps longer on what they've got in the tank.
Yeah, I'd assume so. I mean, I know a couple guys ended up coming down to top off under that last caution, so maybe they can go one more lap. But like I was saying before, the 40 and the 72 pit, the 54 jumped them, and now Sheridan Wade is in front of these 2 guys, and those are the 3 guys that took the wave around.
It could very well, when everybody else has to come to pit road, they could possibly emerge as your top 3, because they're obviously up to speed. They've already ran their out lap, and they're running less than a lap behind this group, which now is going to have Taylor Jordan go to the point. Almost makes me wonder, with what we're seeing here, there's a lot of anti-super speedway type techniques that we're not used to seeing. I almost wonder if this could be one of those races as well, where you'd be comfortable coming down pit road all by yourself. That's almost unheard of when it comes to stock cars. You've got to have a drafting partner or 2 that come to pit road with you and leave with you, or else you're going to be hanging with absolutely no chance of catching back up to the lead pack. But with the speeds we're able to see single cars carry, I almost think that you might not be that disappointed if you come to pit road and there's nobody coming to pit road with you.
You might lose about a tenth or two a lap, but it could really matter on pit entry, pit exit, how well you get through there. And you see DL Lemon peeling off onto pit road. Something I mentioned earlier when these guys first started pitting, the lead pack was gonna get the draft. Well, the leader is passing them at the moment. So I don't know if this is gonna hurt them or help them. See what happens when it cycles through. But I guess we'll be able to tell from DL Lemon right here as he's leaving his box now where he'll cycle out compared to these guys.
And I think if you're a driver like Taylor Jordan and you're close to coming to pit road, as there's Forsyth peeling off, I would think you wouldn't want to be battling quite this much for no other reason than probably going to want the inside line, as he's going to cut right in front of Eric Schaus there. You're going to want that easier access onto pit lane. You don't want to have to try and give up spots and to tuck in line onto that inside, because there's absolutely no way that you're going to be able to pit from the second lane.
Yeah, there's no unless you know the car below you is pitting and the car behind him is pitting. That's the only way you could probably get away with pitting from that second lane, but it's definitely not advised as Nate Fields brings his car to pit road. He is now 20 laps down in 15th position.
Dealing with connection problems all night long, missed the start of the race. That was the reason for the second caution that came out, as his car came to a stop just past pit road exit. See where Craig Forsyth cycles around. I think he's just ahead of the leaders right now. About roughly, looks like 5 seconds ahead of the race leaders here.
Big group coming on pit road right here.
Nigel Camargo, Joseph Morales amongst them.
Will Roberts.
Joe McAdory as well in the 312 coming down pit road with this quartet.
Looks like we're hearing on the radio the rest of the field will probably be coming down this time. Taylor Jordan came over the radio saying he's coming down. Matthew Rodriguez, Jeff Hysung, and I believe Eric Peterson as well.
There are all those mentioned drivers diving onto pit lane. For the most part, you talked about the braking capabilities of the open wheel race cars. They've been doing a pretty good job getting into their stalls, but I did notice Will Roberts overshot his pit stall the least little bit. We'll see if that comes back to bite him once everything cycles around, as Christopher inherits the race lead, and he'll be the last driver to complete this cycle of pit stops. So we kind of have our fuel window now. This is going to be the 37th completed lap for Christopher. Granted, some of those laps were under pacing before we went back green, so looking maybe about a max of 35 laps these drivers can make it on a tank.
Roughly, and you know what, that's going to set them up for one more pit stop. If they go 35, probably the last stop will be around, I want to say, once 170 hits, then I think you're... What's up?
It's about 10 to go if you went the full distance on what's in the tank.
Right now, you'll be sitting, roughly 10 to go. But, and that could play huge dividends if Stouffer stays out here for... until his tank runs dry, and then runs it dry again. He doesn't have to take that much fuel.
Right.
And if he's definitely taking care of his tires right now, as I say that, Stouffer's on pit road. If they're all... I like Stouffer's strategy right here. I think he could get away with running to the end here and ending up doing a splash and go for the last 10.
Chris Stouffer, in the 9 races so far, he has participated in 6 of them, but only 1 top 10 finish, and that was also a top 5. He's been a contender every racetrack we've gone to. The Achilles heel for the 15 is he has just not been able to close out races. Well, he's been kind of quiet here today. We saw in the first few laps he contended for the race lead, but he's just kind of been riding here during the course of this one, anywhere from 5th back to 8th position. And to your point, he might have something strategic planned for later on in this race. As top two, Craig Forsyth, Taylor Jordan, trying to do everything they can to gap 3rd place on back. They're doing that exchange. 8:02 to the point, slingshots around. Forsyth will more than likely do the same thing when they come off of turn number 4. They're trying to manage at what is right now about a 2-second, well, about maybe 1.7-second gap back to Matthew Rodriguez, DL Lemon, Will Roberts, who are all trying to do that same slingshot to be able to close that gap up.
Yeah, and I'm noticing something here. Chris Stouffer is a lap down, and something happened to Jim Herrick on the track.
Yes, it did. I'm also wondering if maybe Chris Stouffer might have gotten hit with a speeding penalty. Oh, Herrick's made contact with something. Rear tires are missing on the number 40. Let's see if we can find out what happened to him.
Turn 3. It looks like he got into it with Eric. Is it Eric?
Oh, that's Sheridan Wade.
Sheridan Wade.
Wow. That was right near the tail end of the pack with no oncoming traffic. That's why no caution flew.
I'm wondering why Chris Stouffer is a lap down here. He didn't have a slow pit stop.
They're showing the amount of time in his box, 50.3 seconds. That says maybe speeding penalty to me.
Oh, yeah. Let's, I'm going to quickly go back and see his pit entry here.
So Stouffer would be in the free pass position if we were to get a caution, but we had 2 yellow flags in the first, it was 10 laps of this race, and we've been clean and green since then. 40 laps to go. The likelihood of a yellow flag is rather slim, but there is always a chance that Chris Stouffer could get that second chance and be able to get back into this thing. As looking at the gap from 1st and 2nd back to 3rd, and it has grown. Last time we mentioned it, it was 1.7 seconds. It is now over 2.5 seconds. So Forsyth and Jordan doing exactly what they need to do to maybe make this be a mono-e-mono battle. Both of them former winners on the season, just continuing to pad their stats, pad their resume, and pad their points.
Yeah, and something I've noticed is they just keep slingshotting one another, trying to stay in line as much as they can. The pack behind them can't figure it out. I think they're trying to slingshot, but I just feel like there's just way too many cars in that pack to try and just get that done. And just to finalize the Chris Stouffer story, he was about 25 miles an hour over the speed limit hitting the line.
Yep, that'll do it. It's a tough break there for Chris Stouffer, and that kind of brings up the point. He's the only one, it looks like, that was nailed by the speeding police. But, you know, when we end up having that final pit stop, somewhere in the range of about, well, anywhere from 20 laps to go to 10 laps to go, depending on how far you want to stretch it, there is that little bit of anxiousness with a driver of, you know, being the money stop, I want to get everything I possibly can get, and you want to make sure you don't overstep, especially if you're one of these two guys right now who clearly seem to have this race in hand. Now, we've already seen one driver succumb to the speeding police. You don't want to throw this victory away on this final pit stop. If it is indeed under green, there is every possibility a caution could completely shake this thing up.
It's so easy to make that mistake. I've made that mistake plenty of times. I'm no robot when it comes to pit road. I mess up all the time. And I've definitely cost myself races that I could have finished in the top 5. And Sheridan Wade has dropped from the session.
Yep. So 54 is going to, with the number of laps he got left, he might end up finishing this race in last, in 15th place, if Jim Herrick can get back out onto the racetrack. I wonder if maybe that contact between him and Jim Herrick might have forced him to maybe have to retire. Might have gotten some damage out of all that too. Might have had some damage on the right front wing, which he had the contact with Herrick.
Sheridan's back. It looked like a connection issue.
Ah, okay. So he
So,
should hold on to 13th then, because next highest car running behind him would be Nate Fields, who's 17, now 16 laps behind him. Herrick is still on pit road.
Yeah, I don't think. I think Herrick's gonna end up losing the position in Nate Fields. That's a lot of damage on the back end of that car.
So this is probably a rhetorical question, but I'm going to ask it just in case, because you did mention that these drivers, whether they're out in front or they're in the draft, they are full throttle. The calculations I've got right here is these drivers, if they can go the furthest possible, based off of when they made their last pit stop, they're anywhere from 9 to 10 laps short on fuel. Is there any possibility here on this run to be able to save that much fuel to make it to the end?
Not at all. I genuinely.
Woo! Gosh. Will Roberts keeps flirting with that apron.
He's been doing it all race long, and I've got a feeling it might bite him at some point. Well, again.
Yeah. Will's already been involved in the first caution. Granted, he does still have his fast repair. He was the only driver involved in that first yellow that got his damage repaired manually and did not have to use that mulligan, but the way that it's going right now, if he can't keep his left sides away from that double yellow line, he may have to use it sooner rather than later as gap continues to increase between the top two and this pack. It is now up to over 3.5 seconds, closing in on 4 seconds here maybe in the next lap or two. And you mentioned it too. I mean, if we had two cars here in third and fourth, then we might be able to see them engage the slingshot technique and maybe start closing up the gap. But with 5, 6, 7 cars, there's not enough space. There's not enough opportunity for coordination to be able to do the slingshot.
Yeah, and I think what's going on is the front two cars have it figured. Well, as I say that, they're still running side by side. I think the front two cars, for the most part, in this pack, have it figured out. They know what they're doing. I've heard a couple drivers get on the radio, trying to communicate with the other ones, just trying to go and catch these guys. But the third car in line isn't cooperating when it comes to it. And you see Will Roberts, and I believe that is Najee no. Who is that with Will Roberts up there?
Yellow car, Eric Peterson.
Oh, okay. So him and Peterson, they were just running side by side. Like, you just lost 0.3 that lap because you're just running side by side.
So something interesting developing here amongst the top two. Obviously working well together, gapping the rest of the field. But remember, Craig Forsyth dove onto pit road quite a bit earlier than a bunch of the other drivers, including Taylor Jordan. 19 laps ago, Forsyth was on pit road. Taylor Jordan pitted 3 laps later. With how well these two are working, if you're Taylor Jordan, do you call an audible and come to pit road the same lap as Craig Forsyth so you guys can continue to do this back and forth until it comes down to the closing stages?
Absolutely. I would 100%. If I'm working well with somebody and we have a 4-second lead, I would be calling an audible being like, hey, what's the latest you can go in the fuel window? Like, and I'll pit with you. I know I have more fuel than you. I'll pit with you, and we'll just keep doing this until, say, 5 to go or 2 to go, whatever, and just keep gapping them. I think it's a perfect strategy, and I think Taylor Jordan should be trying to get Craig to go along with that.
Very interesting call here for Joseph Morales in the 60. Fuel window opened about 7 laps ago, and he's on pit lane at around 30 to go. This might have been a call of get me out of that traffic from 3rd back through 7th and see if I could do something by myself with a single car. We'll see if this works out for him, but I don't know. I'm kind of 50-50 on this strategy call.
Yeah, I feel like I agree with you on that. I feel like it's a gamble, right? Like, all right, if you're running alone, we've seen it speed wise. You're running about 1 to 2 tenths slower than the pack. So 5 laps, all right, maybe you'll lose a second. But the one thing that I'm noticing is they are getting so racy in that pack, trying to figure out a way to catch the top 2. And I feel like it might help, because if they do end up wrecking, he's going to be able to avoid it.
And as of right now, he is still on the lead lap. Granted, he's only about half a straightaway ahead of these top 2, but he can stay on the lead lap. Yeah, it's a lot of track position that he is going to gain. And you have to wonder if maybe other drivers are taking notice of that and maybe diving onto pit lane as well from the 3rd position on back. Well, Roberts, Eric Peterson, DL Lemon, and Matthew Rodriguez all still in close proximity, still congested, still no opportunity to be able to continue trying to do any type of slingshot technique. And they are over 6 seconds behind 2nd place. That's not even the race leader. If we're comparing them to the race leader, it's 6.5 seconds. Is near contact there in 2 different areas. Peterson and Rodriguez almost got together, and Roberts and Lemon almost got together. So that 3rd caution might not be outside the realm of possibility right at the moment.
Yeah, just the way they're racing is really worrying me. But one thing that I'm going to mention with this Joseph Morales strategy is if the leaders go by him and he ends up just sitting behind them, he's going to get such a tow from them. He might cycle out to be the 3rd car in front of this lead pack.
Also notice that Eric Schaus and Joe McAdory, you see them back there. They're about maybe a quarter of a straightaway behind the last car in this lead pack, which would be the 18 of Jeff Hysong. I don't know if they're within distance enough to be able to catch that slipstream or not, but we'll see. I mean, obviously, the driver that Eric Schaus has to worry about here tonight is out in front, leading this race, and has actually opened up a bit of a gap back to Forsythe. There's an idea of what the draft is like. He was able to completely gap himself back to Forsythe and got a huge run on now the lap car of Joseph Morales. So there is definitely a tow here at Daytona when you're in somebody else's slipstream.
Yeah, these cars are so aerodynamically dependent, and especially at a super speedway. You saw it. He pulled about maybe 4 or 5 tenths on him just with that draft. But you see Morales just doing what I said, just sticking behind them, letting them go, pull him along, and I've got a feeling he's going to end up sitting pretty after this.
22 laps to go, and the Erics have dove onto pit lane. Eric Schaus and Eric Peterson for their final pit stops of the day. And the further you go, the less fuel you're going to have to take on. We've already seen a lot of drivers on the long run have handling issues with the tires. If you stretch it to the end, you're only going to have to take on maybe 10, 11 laps of fuel. I mean, do you take tires, or do you maybe go with a no-tire strategy to maybe try and gain even more time and more track position?
I think if you're taking less fuel, I think don't take tires. Maybe, take a gamble on it, see what happens. Especially for guys that were the leaders. I think you take tires, you just go, all out and everything like that. The guys behind him, I feel like you got to switch it up a little bit.
A car down there on the apron. That might have been the 54 of Sheridan Wade, returning back onto the racetrack. And now, at the moment, we've got kind of the race within the race again, as Matthew Rodriguez, Will Roberts, they were on pit road the previous lap. They're all battling with Eric Peterson and company. You get the lucky dog. And
Forsythe is on pit road.
So Taylor Jordan did not come down pit road with the 27. We'll see how those two are going to cycle out.
But the saving grace for Jordan right now is he's in a pack. He's in a pack with a bunch of cars that are a lap down as he, I believe, goes to the front of this pack. Sorry, third car in line in this pack. And I feel like it's going to help him out here.
And he's going to stay out an extra lap. As looks like of all the drivers that have hit, Matthew Rodriguez right now has jumped Eric Peterson, Joseph Morales, and Will Roberts. Taylor Jordan in the middle of this. And there is Craig Forsyth making his way now through 3 and 4. He's about 2 corners ahead of the race leader. I mean, if the caution came out right now, I think that we would obviously have a lot of drivers take the waiver on us. Here comes Taylor Jordan onto pit road. But, I mean, if the caution had come out at that point, we would have had the yellow with 7 drivers on the lead lap, and 3 of those 7 drivers would have been literally just in front of Taylor Jordan.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't have been able to take the wave around there. I know a lot of guys just came off pit road. DL Lemon, another guy, just coming down pit road now. And I believe that'll put the lead in the hands of the 312 of Joe McAdory. I believe he's the only one that hasn't pit yet.
Yep, you'd be correct. He's about 30 laps on this stint, and I didn't get a chance to see with Craig Forsyth, but when the 802 of Taylor Jordan came to pit road, no tires, just fuel. So we'll see if the 27 took on tires.
I believe he did.
So I don't know. Is the 27 get an advantage on that or not? Is it a moot point at this point in time of the race?
You know what? You're up there. You have such a big lead. I feel like it's a smart call. You know, if you can stay up there, what's the worst you get? Second place?
Yeah. Big picture race, and you don't get that checkered flag, but finish on the podium with Eric Schaus right now in 8th, soon to probably be 7th when they make their way around the now pitting 312. Yeah, that's a net gain of points, and most likely points leader going into Kentucky next week.
So I will say, when it cycles around, Taylor Jordan will be your race leader again, and he'll have about a 2-second gap on Craig Forsyth and a 8-second gap on what would be the 3rd place driver, Will Roberts.
And now it's a battle of the qualifying.
Oh, contact between Roberts and Rodriguez down the back. I believe Will was just trying to block Rodriguez.
Whoa! And then Rodriguez gets the apron there out of 4. Nice catch there as he was all out of shape off the final turn. Yeah, now it's basically turning into Q runs for your top 2. Taylor Jordan last time by ran a 37.151 to Craig Forsyth's 165. This time by Jordan a 139 to Forsyth's 178 to manage the gap back to the 27 because I don't know, what would you say, maybe a second and a half? And Forsyth would be able to get the draft off the 802, or would he have to be a little closer?
Probably, with how strong the draft is in these cars, probably about, I'd give it about a second back is when you really start feeling the draft. Forsyth literally lost a 1,000th of a second.
Yep.
And
161 to a 162.
I think if this pack can figure it out, they gained about a second on the leader that time, and they're starting to figure it out. This pack of 4, I genuinely think they're going to get at least Forsyth.
Well, they have enough time to be able to get the race leader, who again, remember, didn't take on tires. Forsyth did, but that hasn't appeared to give him much of an advantage in the lap times consistently. Taylor Jordan has been anywhere from 1 to 5 thousandths faster, and may not seem like much, but when it comes to making sure that Forsyth's not going to get your slipstream, that is very important, even to the minuscule thousandth. How about this time by another thousandth difference between those two? Oh, nope, actually scoring just updated. 2 thousandths difference between those two this time, a 136 to a 138. And for that pack further back, third place on back, they ended up gaining, looks like about maybe a second and a half that lap.
Yeah, they're going to have to gain about, I want to say 7/10 a lap just to get to the back bumper of Taylor Jordan. Obviously, once you get to the back bumper, it's a lot easier to pass in these cars than a stock car. So we'll see if they can get within a second of the 27 machine, then it might be different. But I don't see them getting there.
So look at this formation we've got here. This is really interesting to look at because it's almost like two working rows of what we saw Jordan and Forsyth do earlier. The car in the back dives to the inside behind what was the third car in line on the inside. And every time the inside car gets clear of the two on the top, they then move up to the outside line. It's just kind of like a working conveyor belt. So, yep, they've gotten it figured out here now with 4 cars as opposed to the 6 or 7 they had in the pack before.
But I'll say the 4 cars doing it, it's not working. Forsyth ran a 37.139. And the guy that was fastest out of that group that last time was Eric Peterson, who ran a 37.05.
Oh, need more than that.
Yeah, especially with 8 to go. I think they figured it out a little too late. They cut another 0.2 that lap.
Yeah, it's getting to the point now with 8 laps to go, they got to cut down seconds rather than tenths of seconds. So it may be a doozy of a battle for that final spot of the podium between those drivers as Taylor Jordan continues to maintain and increase just the least little bit, a 2.5 second gap back to Craig Forsyth. Taylor Jordan has won on multiple configurations during the course of the season. He kicked things off at Pocono. He then won a couple of weeks later at Auto Club and then picked up a 1.5 mile victory at Texas. He's now looking to add what would be a second 2.5 mile racetrack to his win column, but this time in the form of the Super Speedway of Daytona. Last thing he wants to do, though, he does not want to come out of turn 4 through the tri-oval, look up at the flag stand and see a caution, because then that opens up the door for not only Forsyth, but another half dozen or so drivers to be able to snatch this checkered flag away. He's saying to that group of 4 back there, just keep it together. Do not bring out that yellow flag.
Yeah, and this group has cut it down. They're 3 wide. Oh boy. Okay, they sorted it out.
Yellow car on the yellow line. All sorts of squirrely. Great save.
Yeah, I would, especially going at these speeds, that was very impressive. The way they're going, they might just say, heck, trying to run down these guys. I want 3rd place. I want that interview. I want that podium. And we'll see. They're 5 to go right now. They cut about 0.3 that lap, so they might get the draft of the 27. But I think they're just battling for 3rd at this point.
Yeah, they're battling hard, too. Will Roberts had his hands full out of the tri-oval, was actually down below the double yellow line, then nearly drifted up to the outside wall there, going into turn 1, as the gap between this group and 2nd place is about 5.5 seconds, but a long ways up still to Taylor Jordan, who that time by... Oh, no, my scoring keeps waiting till the last second update. I was going to say, it looked like Might have been the first lap since the pit stop that Forsyth bettered Taylor Jordan, but no, about 200s quicker was Taylor Jordan that last lap. Hitting the back straightaway for 3.5 laps to go here at Daytona. Eric Schaus back in the 8th position. He could gain 7th on Jeff Hysong, but as of right now, that's the only driver within striking distance. Actually, those two battling for 7th place right now. Unless something happens here in these final 3 laps, it's pretty much a guarantee that Taylor Jordan's going to be the new points leader heading into Kentucky. The question will be by how much.
I think it's going to be a hefty amount going into it. I mean, with, Eric can get at most 7th place. Taylor Jordan is going to get maximum points today bearing no caution. And that's going to be tough to, especially if the field size stays like this for the last 2 races. That's going to be tough to overcome in 2 races.
Yeah, with no bonus points involved, the winner ends up getting 50 points. 7th place only gets 26, literally half of what the race winner gets. So, yeah, to your point, it's going to be a pretty hefty amount. You still got Kentucky next week to cut into that points. And, of course, the double race in a couple weeks' time at Indianapolis to be able to make up any ground lost here today. But 2 more corners and then the trioval for Taylor Jordan. And he'll look up and see a relieving sight, the flagman waving the white flag over the front wing of his 802. There it is, white flag in the air, 1 more lap to go. Taylor Jordan knows that this race is going to come to a close, and the gap still over 2.5 seconds back to Forsyth. We'll watch him as he comes out of turn 4, but then we're going to be jumping back and taking a look at that dogfight for that final spot of the podium. Roberts, Morales, Peterson, Rodriguez still mixing it up, less than a 1/10.5 separating those 4.
Yeah, they're 3 wide down the backstretch for 3rd right now. Matthew Rodriguez kind of backed off, assuming they're going to wreck, and there they go.
And there they all go. Look out. Rodriguez going to bypass them all. Checkered flag. It's going to be Taylor Jordan, win number 4 on the season. Is Rodriguez out of fuel? He's coasting to the line. Oh, no, I think he just lost 3rd. Hysong got him. Matt Rod was out of fuel. Hysong and Schaus door banging to the line for what was supposed to be 4th, turned out to be for 3rd. Hysong gets the final spot on the podium. Schaus is going to get 4th behind Forsyth and race winner Taylor Jordan.
Well, you mentioned speeding on pit road, but you didn't mention filling it full of fuel on pit road.
No, I did not. Super speedways, if they don't get you one way, they'll get you another, as Taylor Jordan through the infield grass. 4th victory on the season for that driver. Most winningest driver in the series this season, and now can add a new title going into Kentucky, points leader of the Dark Horse Racing Series F.A.R.T NDCar Series, as he's going to take the checkered flag here at the World Center of Racing. 2 cautions during the course of the day. Looked like 13 of our 15 cars finished under power. 10 of them on the lead lap. Not necessarily certain we would have expected those kind of numbers with the combination we saw on paper here heading into tonight with open wheel cars at a super speedway.
Yeah, definitely not. But a great race overall. Taylor Jordan really had the strategy to beat. He better be careful burning that thing down, because we go to Kentucky next week, and I think he's going to need it for to try and keep that points lead.
Yeah, might want to use that at another 2.5-mile racetrack, Indianapolis, in a couple of weeks' time as well. Another high-speed racetrack. As take a look at the finishing results from this evening's festivities. Jeff Hysong just nabbing that final spot on the podium. You see the gap from him to Eric Schaus was less than a 1/10 of a second. Schaus going to battle back for 4th place. We had him projected finishing, I believe it was 7th. Before that wreck took place, so a nice net gain there. Not going to be nearly as big a points gap as we originally were projecting. It'll still be a points gap, but maybe a little bit more manageable than it could have been if he had finished outside of the top 5.
Yeah, it's definitely going to shorten the gap between him and Jordan, but a great bounce back. I mean, he was involved in the first wreck. Used his fast repair, was riding on the edge the entire time of, hey, one wreck, I'm done. And just a great comeback for a top 5 finish.
And Craig Forsyth, who brings home second, also had to use a fast repair in the early going. So good run for him. 1 week removed from his first victory on the season at Motegi. You see 8th through 9th, 9th and 10th. Morales, Roberts, Peterson, they were the ones involved in that wreck over there in 3 and 4. They end up going from 3rd, 4th, 5th to the latter spots of the top 10. As we look a little bit further down, the speeding penalty for Chris Stouffer, never got the caution he needed to get back into this thing. Najee Camargo, he was a bit off the pace there in the closing stages as well. Ended up falling 2 laps down. Nate Fields, he finished the race under power, albeit with the early issues. Finishes multiple laps down in 13th. And then the 2 drivers that did not reach the conclusion under power, Sheridan Wade finishes in 14th, and Jim Herrick brings it home in the 15th position here tonight from Daytona. Well, let's see if we can dial up our podium finishers here tonight. And let's see if we can kick things off with a guy who hopefully his heart rate has settled a bit. That was a pretty exciting turn forward to the start-finish line for the driver, the number 18. Let's see if we can talk with Jeff Hysong. Hey, Jeff, it's Tom and Seth up here in the F.R.M booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, how you guys doing?
Well, we know at a super speedway things can change in the blink of an eye. In the matter of about a couple 300-400 feet, your side-by-side battle for what was going to be 4th all of a sudden becomes a side-by-side battle for the final spot on the podium. Very close there at the line. I mean, man, talk about that last lap and all those changes that were taking place there.
Yeah, me and Chouse were just sitting there battling on the throttle. I saw him backing off to see if I was going to get the run, and I wasn't going to let me pass him in that instance. So we got running, and then I got on the gas, and we got to turn 3, and I saw smoke, and I was like, oh, all right, let's see what we got. And then we just kept going and going. and then there was a narrow margin between me and I think it was Eric Peterson's car, which was out of control, and he actually clipped me just a little bit, but I squeezed by, caught the draft, and yeah, I don't know what to really say about that.
And Jeff, you kind of raced under the radar all race long. Like, you were mired mid-pack for most of the race. Was that part of the strategy, or did you just not have the car to compete for the win tonight?
No, I was just trying to sit back. It got kind of chaotic there in the beginning, and then even through practice, if you got on that yellow line in the corner, it was kind of death. So I just wanted to wait, bide my time till pretty much the last 5 laps, and then make my moves. Because I mean, really, with this car, you can really only get 2 wide. If you go 3, it's not really going to work out so well. So yeah, basically just trying to play the strategy till the end and then survive, and it worked out a lot better than I was planning.
There were a lot of things that we kind of had to throw the rule book out, so to speak, in terms of super speedway racing. These open wheel cars seem to kind of go against the grain and what we're used to seeing. One of those things was these particular cars making green flag pit stops. You guys had to make a couple of pit stops under a green flag cycle. Easier, harder getting onto pit road here with these cars as opposed to a stock car? And what kind of level of adaptation did you have to go under in terms of knowing what these cars' capabilities were of either getting woe down or maybe the lack of woeing down to that commitment line?
I'd say it's a little bit easier. The brakes on this car are absolutely amazing. So I was actually a little bit on the weaker side on that last stop, which is what cost me time in the draft right there. So I was kicking myself on being safe going into the pits. But all in all, I'd say it's one of the easier cars to get down to pit road under a good speed.
Well, great run for you here tonight, nabbing that photo finish final spot on the podium this evening. Congratulations on the great run. As Tom said, bit under the radar, but there when it mattered the most in the closing stages. Before we let you go, Jeff, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Just big shout out to you guys for a great broadcast as always. Shout out to all the drivers. That was a fun one. we didn't have as many cautions as we all thought. So everybody did a great job. Congratulations to Taylor and Craig, and sorry for everybody who was involved in that last wreck.
Jeff Hysong, he brings it home third place here tonight in a wild one at Daytona International Speedway. Congratulations once again. Best of luck next week as we head to the Bluegrass state of Kentucky.
Have a good night, guys.
And let's see if we can get a hold of tonight's second place finisher. One position removed from where he finished last week at Motegi. That's Craig Forsyth. Hey, Craig, it's Tom and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
Hey, I got you guys. How you doing?
Well, man, I'll tell you what, that final pit stop, the money stop, two drivers working together up to that point, then two varying strategies. We saw you come to pit road a little bit earlier. We saw you take on tires. You guys were almost identically matching lap times in the closing stages. What little more do you need if you could go back? Is there something you do different?
I would have pitted at the same time that Taylor did. We got into the lap traffic there, and I thought we were getting held up, and I figured this is my opportunity. I'm going to pit in with him. He was, I think, on the outside, trapped by a lapped car, so I knew if I went in, he wouldn't be able to respond. And it turned out the lapped cars just all suddenly organized, and he turned in. I think the next three laps were all 36-1 laps, and mine were solo cars, so 37s. And that was all she wrote. That was 2.5 seconds right there. And yeah, at that point, it was just both of us doing the same laps, 2.5 seconds apart.
And Craig, you kind of had a up and down day when it came to the race. I mean, I believe you were involved in that first wreck, and from starting from the pole, from that to get all the way back up to second, what differed in the strategy knowing that you had to work your way back?
Well, I knew I needed the lucky. I was trying to figure out if I was gonna try and race my way back to the front. But whether you race your way to the front and stay ahead of the leaders, or you get the lucky dog, you need a caution either way for that to happen. And if you do charge your way to the front as a lap down car, all you're doing at the front is burning fuel faster than everyone else and letting the leaders save fuel behind you. So the move at that point was, once the pack had separated on the restart, I realized that none of the other lapped cars were going to be a challenge anymore. So at that point, I was just waiting for a caution to happen. And without the caution, I would have stayed a lap down the whole race, which is, that's what happened to Chris Stouffer. He, competitive right up at the front until he got the speeding and pit lane penalty. And he just had to spend the whole rest of the race hoping for a caution that never happened.
So, Craig, the last 2 weeks have been really good for you. The victory last week at Motegi, second place here tonight, but you just can't seem to shake that 802 car. He was second to you last week. He finishes one spot ahead of you here tonight. But you come into tonight's race roughly about, I think you were about 80-some-odd points out of the points lead. You leave tonight 76 points behind. 2 races left. We've got, of course, the double points race at Indianapolis. So next week at Kentucky, are you looking to find victory lane, take a big chunk out of that points lead, or are you looking for a solid outing to maybe rely on those double points and try and capitalize to still maybe have a mathematical shot at the championship by the time we get to the Brickyard?
No, I need Taylor to make a mistake at this point. I've got to charge to the front and finish first both races. Like it's such a points gap that it needs to happen, and Taylor is extremely good at this. So good on him for being so consistent and so fast. That's a good combo. So we need something unfortunate to happen, or we need to keep him behind us, and it's proving to be a challenge.
Well, bit of a rough start here tonight. Had to use that faster pair, but consistent and able to charge your way up to the front. Battle for this race win, bringing it home second place. Job well done here tonight. Craig, before we let you go, floor is yours for thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
All right. I got to thank Jim over at 40 Racewear, and Chris has joined the team and as well. So we're trying to represent this season as we learn the IRO1 and continue with the craziness that is this car. And all the guys at the Dark Horse Racing, Eric and Charles, and not sure where Charles was today, but they for hosting this whole thing for us, and of course you guys over at FRN for broadcasting for us. We love to be able to show the folks what we do.
Craig Forsyth, second place here today after a wild one at Daytona. Congratulations on the good performance. Best of luck here down the remainder of the home stretch. Kentucky next week.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Stay safe.
And per usual, we're unfortunately not going to be able to get an interview with our race winner, Taylor Jordan. But Tom, the point standings are in after the conclusion of tonight. We were wondering what that points gap was going to look like. Taylor Jordan, obviously the points leader. 19 points he'll have in hand over Eric Schaus. Then you got Will Roberts, 73 back, and we just talked to Craig Forsyth, 76 points back. I mean, Schaus, good comeback run. Craig Forsyth, really strong here tonight. But I think Craig kind of touched on it. Between Kentucky and Indianapolis, these guys need Taylor Jordan to make a mistake, need him to set a wheel wrong.
Definitely. And I definitely think the only way that's going to happen is if he gets involved in a wreck. I think coming out to a super speedway and showing the speed that you had, being up front for the majority of the race, really shows that you are the guy to compete with now for the championship. I mean, I believe this is 4th win on the season.
Yes.
In 10 races, that's tough. But like Craig said, you got to keep him behind you. It might not be raw pace. You might have to do differing strategy. That last race at Indianapolis, double points. Craig said it. He's not out of this yet. He needs to keep that 802 behind, along with the 72. Keep in mind, he's only, I think you said 19 points back?
Correct.
He's only 19 points back. So, say Taylor finishes second the next race and the 72 wins it, you got a new points leader again going into the final race. So it's definitely going to be exciting to watch coming down the home stretch, especially with the run of really good speed the 802 has. But I think it's going to come down to that last race with the double points, seeing how it turns out for everybody.
A little food for thought. 3 2.5-mile racetracks on the schedule this season. Taylor Jordan is so far 2 for 3. The other track, and that's at the Brickyard in 2 weeks' time. But next week we will be at Kentucky for the penultimate race of the season, kind of set up what our championship battle will look like when we eventually get to Indianapolis. As stated, tonight's race, the combination Daytona International Speedway, open wheel race cars. We knew that the speeds were going to be high. The handling was going to be at relatively all-time low. Incredible show that these drivers put on here tonight. Came down to a round of green flag pit stops, and Taylor Jordan able to pick up that 4th victory on the season. Tom, it's been a pleasure having you up here in the booth for this one. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's always fun hopping in the booth. It's been a little while. I've been focusing more on my racing side of things, on my broadcast side of things, and but it's good to step back every once in a while and actually watch a race instead of get frustrated in one. So hopefully I come back next week. If Matt Rod decides to end up racing again, I will be happy to fill in the booth and watch how this battle plays out.
We appreciate everybody that tuned into our coverage here tonight as well. Hope that you all enjoyed it. Again, next week we will be at Kentucky International Speedway as these drivers are starting to make plans for the close of the season at Indianapolis. Next Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we go green in the Bluegrass State for race 11 of the Dark Horse Racing Series F.A.R.T NDCar Series. Hope that you guys will join us for that. For Tom Bourne, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday night. As we say sayonara from Daytona, you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you